You're joining us for a deep dive, and today we're really getting into something at the forefront of material science. We're talking quantum materials, and specifically, a pretty exciting new discovery.
That's right. It's about finding this rare form of one-dimensional quantum magnetism.
In a metal, right.
Yeah.
That's the unusual part, this Ti4MnBi2 compound.
Exactly. It's a significant development. The study just came out in Nature Materials, April 8th, 2025.
Okay.
From researchers over at the University of British Columbia's Blusson Quantum Matter Institute,
Yeah.
UBC Blusson QMI.
Right, UBC. So our mission today is to, unpack this. Why is it such a big deal? What does one-dimensional magnetism in a metal actually mean? And what could it lead to?
Let's get into it. It's fascinating stuff.
Okay, so the core finding. Scientists found this one-dimensional quantum magnetism in Ti4MnBi2. You hear one-dimensional and metallic together. That combination, it sounds a bit counterintuitive, maybe.
It really does. Usually you think of magnets, the tiny spins inside interacting in, all three dimensions, like a normal bulk magnet.
Yeah.
But here, it's like these little magnetic compass needles are mostly just talking to their neighbors along a single line, a chain.
Okay, a chain.
And the kicker is, this chain is running through a material that conducts electricity, a metal. That's the rare combo.
And that metallic part, that seems to be where the real excitement is coming from, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because the researchers point out, systems we knew about before that showed this 1D magnetism, they were usually insulators.
Right, they didn't conduct electricity well.
And apparently their 1D behavior often kind of fell apart at low temperatures. They became 3D anyway.
Exactly. The chains would start interacting with each other, not just along the line. Professor Aronson, one of Lee's researchers, she actually mentioned that we just haven't really understood how fundamental quantum metals behave when they're truly one-dimensional like this.
So Ti4MnBi2 being a metal changes the game because why exactly? What's happening differently?
Well, it means there's this really strong conversation happening between the magnetism, those ordered spins, and the conduction electrons.
Ah, the electrons carrying the current.
Precisely. Think of it like,
Yeah.
well, usually in 1D systems, magnetism and electricity were kind of separate issues. Insulators don't have many free electrons anyway.
Right.
But here, the magnetism is deeply tangled up with the electrons that make it a metal. This interaction, this entanglement, it's where the new physics might be hiding, and that's what could be so useful for future tech.
You mean things like quantum computing, spintronics, the usual suspects.
Those are definitely the big ones people talk about.
But what problems do they have now that this material might actually, help solve?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So take spintronics. The idea is using electron spin, not just its charge, to carry information. It could be faster, more efficient.
Okay.
But controlling spin reliably is tricky. A material like this, where the spins and the electrons are so tightly linked, might give us completely new ways to manipulate spin states. Much more direct control.
I see. And for quantum computing?
It could offer a new physical system, a new platform for building and controlling qubits, those quantum bits. Maybe one with unique advantages because of this spin-electron coupling.
Okay, interesting. Now, the paper also mentions frustrated spin chains. That sounds dramatic. What's going on there?
Yeah, it does sound a bit stressed out. Basically, imagine those spins again, the little magnets.
Mm-hmm.
In Ti4MnBi2, the interactions between them are set up in such a way that they can't all settle into their preferred low-energy alignment simultaneously. One spin wants to point up, its neighbor wants to point down, but the next neighbor creates a conflict.
Ah, so they're kind of stuck, competing interactions.
Exactly, that's the frustration. And this frustration prevents simple magnetic ordering and leads to these really exotic, complex quantum states, especially near absolute zero temperature. It's far from simple magnetism.
So how did they even figure this out? You can't just look at it and see 1D chains, can you?
Oh, definitely not. It takes some pretty advanced tools. One key technique was neutron scattering. They did this at a big facility in Japan, J-Park. You essentially fire beams of neutrons, which are subatomic particles, at the material.
Right.
Neutrons have their own magnetic moment, so they interact with the spins inside the material. By seeing how the neutrons scatter off, you can map out how the spins are arranged and how they're behaving, almost like using magnetic X-rays.
Wow, okay.
And crucially, this experimental picture was backed up very strongly by some heavy-duty theoretical calculations.
Like computer simulation.
Exactly. Things like density matrix renormalization group, DMRG, which is specifically powerful for these 1D quantum problems, and also detailed electronic structure calculations.
So the experiment and the theory matched up really well.
Extremely well. And that agreement is what gives them the confidence to say, yes, this is really happening.
Now, you mentioned this is rare. Apparently, Ti4MnBi2 is only the second metallic system known to have this confirmed 1D magnetism.
That's right. The only other one currently confirmed is a material called YB2PTTB.
Okay, YB something, but Ti4MnBi2 is different somehow.
Yes, and it's a critical difference. While YB2PTB shows the 1D magnetism, the researchers found that in Ti4MnBi2, the link, that entanglement between the magnetic chains and the metallic electrons, is much, much stronger.
Ah, so it's not just two things happening in the same place. They're really interacting strongly.
Precisely. Professor Aronson called it finding this vital middle ground. It's this deep interconnection that she believes creates, and I like this phrase, a broad quantum landscape ripe for exploration.
That broad quantum landscape, it sounds full of potential. And this strong match between the experiments and the theory you mentioned, Professor Aronson thinks Ti4MnBi2 could actually become a sort of benchmark.
Yeah, benchmark system for testing quantum simulations, especially for studying quantum entanglement.
Why is having a benchmark like that so important?
Well, entanglement is, fundamental to quantum mechanics. It's that weird connection between particles.
Right, spooky action at a distance.
Kind of, yeah. And it's essential for quantum computing and other quantum technologies.
Okay.
But simulating entanglement accurately, especially in a complex metal, is incredibly difficult.
Okay.
So having a real material where the experimental results line up so beautifully with the theoretical predictions gives scientists a calibration point, a test case to make sure their simulation methods are actually working correctly for these kinds of tricky systems.
Got it. And then Dr. Alberto Nocera, another researcher on the paper, he apparently sees this as an ideal testbed for quantum advantage demonstrations. What does quantum advantage mean in this context?
It basically means showing that a quantum system, maybe one based on this material, can perform a specific task significantly better, maybe faster or more efficiently, than any existing classical computer could.
Ah, proving the quantum approach is actually superior for certain problems.
Exactly. And he also mentioned potential for unique magnetic memories with high density and speed.
Okay, that sounds more immediately practical, like better hard drives.
Potentially, yeah, but maybe operating on different principles. Imagine storing much more data in a smaller space, accessing it way faster, maybe using these unique 1D magnetic states. It's speculative still, but that's the kind of possibility it opens up.
This sounds like it needed a lot of different skills, not just one person tinkering in a lab.
Oh, absolutely not. It was a major team effort, clearly bringing together diverse expertise there. UBC Blusson QMI.
Yeah.
You had Dr. Shang Li, the first author, who focused on actually growing the high-quality crystals, which is critical.
Right, you need good samples.
Then Dr. Mohammed Uda, handling a lot of the experimental work. And on the theory side, Dr. Alberto Nocera and Dr. Katerina Foyevsova, doing that complex modeling and overseeing it all, providing guidance, were Professors George Sawatsky and Megan Aronson. It really shows how modern science often needs this kind of collaboration.
And the sheer effort involved. I read that Dr. Li mentioned growing over 100 batches of these crystals.
Yes. And then having to carefully align over 400 of the best ones just right for those neutron experiments.
Wow. That really puts the dedication into perspective. It's not easy stuff.
Not at all. It highlights the sheer persistence and precision needed to probe these fundamental quantum effects. You can't just order this stuff off the shelf.
Okay, so let's try and pull the main threads together here. This discovery of 1D quantum magnetism in a metal, Ti4MnBi2, it's important because it kind of connects two worlds, magnetic insulators and complex metals.
Exactly. It provides this new playground where magnetism and metallic electrons are forced to interact strongly in a basically one-dimensional setting.
And that playground lets us study this interplay in ways we couldn't before.
Right. And understanding that could lead down the road to, well, maybe new quantum computing architectures or perhaps those super fast, super dense memory technologies.
It's really about finding experimental proof for something that was mostly theoretical before, isn't it? And that opens doors.
That's a great way to put it. It makes the theory real, tangible, something you can actually work with and potentially harness.
So for everyone listening, maybe think about this. If we can really start to engineer materials where magnetism and electricity are linked at this fundamental quantum level, what completely new kinds of technologies, things we haven't even conceived of yet, might become possible? It's pretty mind-bending.
It really is. And, another thought, this was experimental proof for a long-theorized state of matter. It makes you wonder what other weird quantum states predicted by theory are just waiting out there for us to find the right material or the right experiment to reveal them.
Yeah.
And what totally unexpected properties might they turn out to have. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what quantum materials can do. It's definitely an exciting time for the field.